Hello and welcome to the PvA Nightly Rundown. Hopefully everybody's weekend was fantastic and happy Monday. This is the nightly gaming news show where I run you through all of the gaming news that you may have missed throughout the day so that you don't look like a freaking idiot at the water cooler tomorrow. Yeah, like I said, my name is Luke Croft and that is not my Twitter handle anymore. I forgot to update that. We got a new Twitter handle now, at LukePVA. Last time I'm changing it. Just really wanted to double down on the PVA branding, and so yeah, decided to change that. Anyway, again, hope you guys had a good weekend. My weekend was pretty good, guys. Last week was my first week back at work after my vacation, and so it took me a while to get back into the swing of things. This week is a short week, which always makes the week a little bit easier, right? Just a tad bit easier. So yeah, didn't really get up to much at all this weekend. My wife was finishing up her master's class, and so she was doing work on that while I was doing work on playerversusall.com. What? Playerversusall.com, Luke, what is that? Well, that is the website that I've had for quite some time. It's what the PVA in PVA Radio stands for. And we started it about a year ago. We produced some content for it. It kind of fell off. Now it's kind of become a hub for all things our podcasts. We want to change that. I sat down with Larry and Cody last week. A couple weeks ago to talk to them about like, hey, what can we do to pump out more content on our website? And we came up with a pretty cool strategy. But the first thing that I needed to do was update the website to be a little bit more presentable. So I'm going to share this out real quick. So this is playerversusall.com, the new and improved look. I'm not quite done with the homepage here. There's some tweaks and changes that I need to make in order to clean this up. Also, I think I got some shit on my screen. What is that? No, it's on the image. Oh, it's because I'm terrible with Photoshop and removing backgrounds from images. There's a little, you probably can't see it on stream. There's a little bit of a leftover background there and right there. And it looked like it was like dead spots on my monitor. I'm like, this monitor is 7 months old. I don't think I can bridge that conversation with my wife about having to replace it already. So anyway, this is the new and improved homepage. Again, mostly a hub for all things our podcast. In fact, everything here is podcast essentially. Videos here on the sidebar, which is awesome. And then we also made our new blog layout here as well, looking crispy. My wife is watching something on full blast on her telephone. So yeah, be expecting some more content coming out. I got a couple pieces lined up, hopefully to come out this week, and I'm very excited about it. Writing is like my first love, my first passion. My foray into gaming was in podcasting, starting with the Player 3 podcast, but then I got into the writing side of it. I wrote for a couple different outlets, spent a good little stint at Twinfinite, and then freelanced for a couple different outlets as well. And so I've always loved the writing side of things. I want to do it more, and I want to I just want to get more consistent with it, right? Because I feel like it's really a strength of mine. So also Cody is an excellent writer as well. He's been published at Kotaku. He's been published at Game Informer. I think he's been published by like Unwinnable, some other good outlets. And so he's going to be contributing his voice on pieces over here at Player Versus All as well. And then Larry, he kind of cut his teeth at an old site of mine called Two Left Sticks. And yeah, he's going to be contributing as well. And then we got a plan to start getting some freelancers at some point as well. We want to get kind of our side of the house straightened up before we start inviting other people in, right? And so we want to make sure that we can consistently produce high quality content for the site, but then the goal is here quickly to start pulling people in a paid capacity to contribute articles on a freelance basis, not like a staff basis. So whenever that happens, I'll talk about it here on the show, give you guys links and stuff to go do that. So be on the lookout, probably about a month out from anything like that, just because we're still wrapping around our heads around like availability and things like that. Anyway, you're not here for that kind of talk. I'm excited about it. I could talk about it at length if I was given the opportunity to. But a little bit more housekeeping here at the top. Tomorrow is a very special day for the PvA Nightly Rundown because we're going to have our first guest on with us, and it is going to be none other than co-host of PvA Radio and contributor at Player vs. All, Cody Mellerkline. He has some availability this week, so he's going to join me for tomorrow's episode at least, possibly some other episodes throughout the week as well. So I'm excited about that. It's still going to be the same concept though, right? We're going to get together. We're going to chat about gaming news. You guys are going to have the opportunity to interact and chat with us. I'm going to try my hardest to convince Cody to pull up the chat. He never pulls up the chat when we're doing the show on Wednesdays, but to pull up the chat and to interact along with you guys, because that's what the show is all about, guys. It's the PvA Nightly Rundown. We do this every single weeknight over here on twitch.tv/PvA Radio at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, except for Wednesdays, because that's when we do our weekly gaming podcast called PvA Radio, and we do that at 9:30. But this is an opportunity for you guys to come in. I'm going to run you through all the gaming news that you may have missed, and you guys can interact in the chat, give your thoughts as well. It's a lot less structured than PvA Radio, so if you want to kind of take us off topic, that is absolutely, positively A-okay. We will allow it. And then if you can't catch us live over here on Twitch, you can look us up over on youtube.com/PvA Radio as well. I try to upload those the very next morning, and we break it out topic by topic. So if there's just one thing that you want to hear me talk about and you don't want to watch the whole entire hour-long episode, you have that option as well. Wherever you're watching, though, we appreciate you. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, whatever it may be. And it is greatly, greatly appreciated. Just water in the red solo cup tonight. Just water. It's been hot. We had a little break from the heat for a couple days. Got into like the low 80s. Spent most of the weekend out on my porch working on things. My wife did as well. Tried working outside again today. Ended up bringing this box fan up from downstairs, plugging it up to an outside outlet, and blowing just hot air on my face because I was like, I just don't want to go inside. But then I was like, I'm getting a little sweaty, so I'm gonna head in. But I'm just ready for fall, man. Right before the show, I had the sweater on because I'm trying to will fall into existence. My wife went back to school today, so I just expect that the weather should be breaking any moment now. But then I was thinking, it's like, oh, it's still the end of July. We've still probably got like a solid 2.5 months of hot weather to go before we can start busting out hoodies on a regular basis. So, all right, guys. Well, let's jump into it. We always start the day off with the games that released today, and we pull this over from Kotaku.com. Zach Zweisen does a wonderful job of putting this article together. So your games that released today include Trine 3, The Artifacts of Power on Switch. We have Catch a Duck on Switch. We have Warman on PC, Zeminator on PC, Deathless Dungeon on PC and Mac, Evening Star 2, Tide of Chaos on PC, and Kakuro on PC as well. And so, and then also 2222 Tea Party on PC and Mac, which is the game we're going to be looking up the trailer for. So let's hop over to YouTube. Let me just copy and paste this over. YouTube.com. Unmute that. Two Tea Party. This game looks weird as fuck, guys. I'm just preparing you now. It looks like a bad Photoshop, but this released a month ago. It has 161 views on it. What the hell is this? It's like some demonic Guitar Hero game that you play as like a big-nosed nutcracker. Is it a horror game? That's graffiti. That's exactly what I'm thinking. What the hell is this? Holy shit, what's going on over here on the right-hand side? Guys, we might have to play this. Holy cow, his head just fell off? You get to choose your smile? Is that what that is? What the fuck is this game, guys? I'm trying to understand all of these mechanics that are going on here. This is so weird. This is scarier than that Switch game from a week or so ago. This doesn't have the comforting presence of naked people in it, that's Graffiti. That's the problem. What the hell is that? What the hell? Holy cow, guys. That game looks wild as shit. I don't know, and I'm not going to find out until I'm streaming it, man. Then you're going to have to come watch. That's maybe one of the weirdest trailers I've ever seen in my entire life. I might have nightmares about it too. That's Graffiti. The game of the year you must play. All right, I'm going to drop the name of this in the show notes to remind myself to go back and download this. Let's look up how much it is. I got Steam open here. 22222 July 29th. Oh shit, the trailer's playing again, guys. Wait, this says it comes out August 14th, 2019. Zach Zweisen, you and I are gonna have words, my dude. You gotta double check this shit. You've gotten me all excited about this, and here it is, not coming out till August 14th. The weirdest game of all freaking time. 4 curators have reviewed this product. Click here to see them. We'll get to the news here in a second, guys. All right, some people have recommended it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how Steam works. All right. Holy cow, guys. So weird. So weird. All right, well, let's jump into the news, guys. First item on the list. The Fortnite World Cup happened yesterday. And apparently, this Wired story... Oh, it helps if I don't paste the link in twice. Oh, it's going to be like, you have 3 free articles left this month. I'll just switch to a different device, my dude. All right. So yeah, the Fortnite World Cup happened over the weekend. It was a 3-day event. This story comes from Wired, and I just kind of want to like fly over and look at what happened at the Fortnite World Cup. You know, we're not going to get too in the weeds about the individual winners and stuff like that, but I want to bring up a couple different numbers. First of all, the 16-year-old Kyle Giersdorf, or he's also known as Booga, won $3 million. The $3 million grand prize at the Fortnite World Cup Finals when he won the solos. A 16-year-old walked away with $3 million for playing Fortnite, guys. Awesome. How freaking cool is that? A 16-year-old not only won the solo round, but like I know that there were qualifiers that led into this weekend, so he had to perform, you know, time in and time out. And I know that there was people as young as like 14 years old that were playing in this thing. So yeah, he walks away with the $3 million. And what I wanted to touch on more was the viewership and the engagement. So Fortnite, as we all know, wildly popular game. And it is among the top 3 most viewed games at any given time over on Twitch. Let's check right now. Let's head over to Twitch. See how many people are watching Fortnite. We've got 106,000 people watching Fortnite tonight. No special events going on. This is just random people streaming, talking about their experiences at the World Cup. And it is the 3rd most viewed game currently over on Twitch. Over the weekend, during the finals, it pulled in how many on Anthem? Great question, Mad Brock. Get your guesses in on the chat. I'm going to keep scrolling while I talk. But the finals pulled in 2 million concurrent viewers. 2 million concurrent viewers, which is insane. The viewership during the finals made the game the top most viewed esports event in Twitch history. And now there have been bigger esports events with higher viewerships. All right, Mad Brock's saying 34 for Anthem. We're not even to 34 yet. So we'll keep scrolling here. There have been higher viewed events, but not solely on Twitch. Twitch had at one point 1.5 million concurrent viewers watching the World Cup. All right, here we go. We're going to control F and we're going to type in Anthem. Anthem currently has 58 viewers. So Mad Brock, you win some sort of prize. 1 million Kafka coins or something like that. All right, let's focus on the task at hand here. This event was wildly successful. Wildly successful. And the place where I want to camp out for a second is Slasher sent this tweet out. Rod Bresla, he's an esports consultant. He's a voice in the esports community. If you keep up with any kind of esports, you've probably heard of the name Slasher. But he sent out this tweet yesterday. I don't know if this was right after or if this was during the finals, but he said, Fortnite is officially a tier 1 esport. And the esports world lost their fucking mind about it. Oh, man. And, you know, the arguments range from some things that are somewhat legitimate, right? Where people are like, Fortnite can never be a legitimate esport with the RNG factor that's in it, right? So the way that Fortnite works for, you know, the two of you in the world that have never played this game, 100 people drop into a map, a giant map, then they fight to the death. Until one person remains, as there is a storm that converges in on one singular point on the map that forces the fight to a smaller and smaller area throughout the game. But part of it is that you don't know where the loot is when you drop. There are places that have a higher probability of having high value loot, but at the end of the day, where you drop, it's kind of a thing with it's kind of like a luck thing, right? When you drop in, is the place where I'm going to have a good weapon? Is it going to have enough ammo? Is it going to have enough shields? Am I going to be able to get enough supplies dropping into the map? So that's one of the arguments. But then you get down into other arguments where people are like, well, the game is just for kids, it's trash, blah, blah, blah. And to that, I'm like, this game just had a 3-day event in which it awarded over $30 million in prize money, with the finals winner of the solos winning $3 million. It drove in massive sponsorships from massive companies. It drove over 2 million concurrent viewers. They haven't released any of the official viewership numbers. I'm sure that we're going to be just as equally blown away when those happen. And so you can't call something a kid's sport or a kid's game when there's big boy money flying around. All right? And this whole idea that Fortnite is not a tier 1 esport because it is a kid game, or it's a game for kids. Like, just get out of here with that elitist bullshit mindset, right? And recognize this event for what it was. It was a great event for Epic and for Fortnite, yes. There's no denying that. When they sit down to have their little post-mortem debrief meeting about the Fortnite World Cup 2019, it is going to be a resounding success. And look, there's going to be certain things that they're going to want to talk about in order to improve it. But at the end of the day, when they sit down with the numbers, both viewership and money generated from the event, there's no other conclusion than you can come to than to say this was a success. So yes, from the Epic side and the Fortnite side, massive success. From an esports fan side, just as huge a success, just as important a success for the esports world. Guys, if you have been around the internet at all today, you have seen coverage about the Fortnite World Cup. And you haven't just seen coverage from Polygon, Kotaku, Dexerto, Game Rant, the sites that we use when we're talking about gaming news. No, you've seen coverage from Fox News, BBC, CBS, MSNBC. All of these mainstream media outlets Philip DeFranco made a video on it, apparently. I don't really watch a lot of Philip DeFranco, but I know that he's a big deal over on YouTube. He made a video about it. So this has broken through and become a massive thing for mainstream people to talk about. Now, look, a lot of that conversation is, look at the lead in for these news segments is, or like as they're going to a commercial break, and when we come back, somebody, a 16-year-old kid made $3 million playing a video game. And yeah, there's a little bit of that stigma that's still attached to it as they're talking about it. But at the end of the day, there's a conversation happening outside of our circle, outside of the esports circle, outside of the gaming fan circle, and into this mainstream arena that is so important for the esports world to gain traction in. Because there are real world sponsors who are attaching their names to it. There are real world sponsors giving money to have their brand plastered all over these events. And in order for these events to stay relevant, they have to expand beyond the little circle that they've created in the gaming world. Mad Brock, you're a huge gaming fan. You said the first that you heard of the event was from a Philip DeFranco video. And was that today that you saw that video? Was he like going over the results and the prize money? Mad Brock says, yeah. And here's the thing. Mad Brock is a huge fan of video games. A massive fan of video games. And it took somebody outside of the gaming circle to talk about this event in order for him to know that this event happened. And that's why this event is a big deal, not just for Epic, not just for Fortnite, but for esports fans as a whole. Much has been said about Fortnite's place in the gaming culture, both negative and positively. One thing we cannot deny about the game is that it broke through in this phenomenon of a way that we haven't really seen really ever. Maybe Pokemon Go, but you know, Fortnite dances happening during the World Cup, during college football playoff matches, during NFL games, during NBA games, during Fortnite references being made during the NCAA tournament. We saw Fortnite breaking into mainstream pop culture in a way we've never seen a video game really enter that arena. And in the same way, Fortnite is going to take esports through that same path. And this event is indicative of that. Fortnite's in this weird spot now, right? Because of that, like, breaking in that the video game did, people outside of gaming recognize the name Fortnite. And so, yeah, you can talk about, like, Overwatch esports or League of Legends esports. The international tournament for Dota has a massive, I think, like $32 million prize pool right now. You can talk about those things, but there's no outside connection to that. Fortnite, though, is the game that people have talked about because kids are addicted to it. People have talked about it because, you know, kids are spending a bunch of money on it. People have talked about it because of the dances that have been happening. People have talked about it because schools have had to ban it. It has this like mainstream connection to people that when you're talking about Fortnite, the esport, the most recognizable thing in that sentence to a lot of people outside of that sphere is Fortnite. And that's a really kind of interesting angle for this event. And an interesting place that Fortnite has established for themselves within not just gaming culture, but in pop culture. And I really do think that this event is going to pull a couple different generations into, or a couple different segments of individuals into esports that may not have been into esports to begin with. The first is the younger crowd. You know, a lot of the world's most popular esports currently have a very long legacy with very complex gameplay. I'm thinking about like League of Legends. I'm thinking about, you know, Dota. These are games that have existed for over a decade. Their esports scenes have existed for over a decade. I'm thinking about a game like Overwatch, whose esports scene has existed long before the Overwatch League took off. And those are three games that have really difficult kind of rule sets to understand and to be able to know what's going on. And as a guy who's been trying to get more and more into League of Legends each week, I feel like the more the more stones I turn over, the more stones I find underneath. Like, I want to understand this game on a level where I can really appreciate what the pros are doing. But every time I learn one thing, I realize there's like 10 other things to learn. And it's this beast of a thing that I'm having to pour real amounts of time into learning how to watch it, learning how to understand it. I've dedicated time to watching strategy videos. I've dedicated time to watching, old like historic matches that meant a lot in the competitive scene. I'm dedicating real time to understand that esport because of its complexity and because of its history and legacy. I don't feel like I can fully appreciate it without that background knowledge. Fortnite doesn't have that. The competitive scene behind Fortnite has not existed for that long. It's an easier game as far as concept to understand. It doesn't have 10 years of meta for somebody to catch up on and to understand and appreciate in order to come to the game and to really know what's going on. And so it's going to pull a lot of that younger audience who may be late to the party to get into, too late to the party to get into like a League of Legends or a Dota. I've been trying to watch Dota. I had no clue what's going on in that. I just like watching esports, but I don't have a clue what's going on in Dota. So I think it's going to pull in that audience, and then it's going to pull in another audience who didn't even know this world existed. Because, and I think I talked about this a little bit last week when they talked about the picture-in-picture function that they were going to be bringing to Fortnite. All it took for me to get into esports was to see not even a match of the Overwatch League. I saw like a 5-minute segment of the production of the Watchpoint show, which was it used to be like their midweek show where they'd break down the upcoming matches and the matches that took place the week prior. It took me just a few minutes of watching a singular segment of that show to realize that the esports world existed and that it was cool and something for me to get into. I had like an orbital knowledge of the esports scene, but I had no real like landing point for me to say this is where I'm going to get into it. And I think Fortnite is going to be that. This event and events like this within the Fortnite sphere are going to be like that for a lot of people who aren't even aware that the esports scene exists, and they're confronted with something that they understand, and their mind is opened up to a world of possibilities about what esports can be. And so this event is not only good for Epic, but it's also good for every single other esport that exists currently. Because it's going to open people's eyes to a world that they didn't know existed before. There are people that are watching those news segments, that are reading those articles published on mainstream media outlets and saying, oh, wow, I didn't realize that there were these massive events. This took place at the Arthur Ashe Arena in New York, which is where they play the U.S. Open, the U.S. tennis tournament. And there are people who are like, I didn't know they had events that, sold out arenas and gave out, 7-figure prizes to people that had sponsors, like some of the sponsors that were at this event. And it starts to legitimize esports for a whole entirely new audience. And so let's get out of here with this, man. Like, don't be the old man shaking your fist at the cloud saying, oh, damn you, Fortnite and your RNG and your Fortnite dances and your flossing. Like, get that shit out of here. You sound like the dude who's like, oh man, football was so much better before they put those fucking roughing the passers in there. It's like, well, they're like trying to help with concussions and shit. Like, you sound old and out of touch when you're that guy who's like, I wish it could just go back to how it was. People who complain about like the NBA, there's no defense in the NBA. They never call traveling. I remember back in the day, you could fucking armbar somebody under the basket. They wouldn't call a foul. And it's like, well, guess what? NBA viewership skyrocketing through the roof, higher than it's ever been before, guys. So, and that's the same thing with Fortnite. We can look at it and complain about it all they want. And look, it may not personally be your thing, It's not personally my thing. If I'm being honest, I watched a total of probably 15 minutes of the World Cup. And it's not my thing. But I'm into other esports, and I understand this trickle-down effect that if we can get people in here on this thing that everybody kind of has a connection to in one way or another and get them filtering over into games. There may be people who watch Fortnite, who watch the Fortnite World Cup, who play Rainbow Six, and we're like, oh, I didn't realize Rainbow Six had an esports scene. Descensed, what's up? My homie, my dude. Guys, if you don't yet, go follow Descensed. He's an awesome streamer. I watch him every day. He streams every weekday at 4. I think we've rated him at least once. Go give him a follow. He's awesome. In the chat, he says, I'm lurking while you play Destiny, but I agree 100%. Twitch's concurrent viewers ramped up like crazy when Fortnite took off because so many people just had no idea. And that's exactly right. Twitch has been impacted by the trickle-down effects of Fortnite. And of specifically of like Ninja, right? Where Fortnite and Ninja broke into the mainstream because of the money that they were generating, both in revenue for Fortnite and just in like the astronomical monthly subscriber numbers and in tip and bit numbers that that Ninja was pulling in. And people came over into Twitch and realized, oh man, there is like a veritable cornucopia of creators that exist here. There are tons of people doing a lot of really cool things here. Maybe I should stick around. And the same thing's going to happen with esports, guys. With Fortnite and esports. All right, guys, let's move on. Next story on the list. We have a new gameplay trailer for the Blair Witch. And I'm going to open this up. This is just over on YouTube. And let me pause it before it gets started. I have not watched this. I had it pulled up and I watched like 2 seconds of it before I dropped it in the show notes. And I was like, wait a minute. I really just want to watch this with people. So let me get this pulled up. Here we go.
Hey, it's,
Doggo.
I didn't think you'd call.
Yeah, well, how's the search going?
This is
That dog
no
better
longer
not
just a
die,
missing
guys.
person case, Jess.
You don't sound like yourself. You okay?
No, it's nothing.
I'm really afraid that we're going to have to I Am Legend that dog at some point. Spoiler alerts for I Am Legend.
Just talk to me, please.
So as a
You
main
heard the
mechanic,
legend,
sending your
right?
dog to investigate
About
for
the
you when
witch?
you're too scared, because I am down with that.
Alice, you sure you're doing
Appreciate the
fine?
kind words, by the way. If that dog dies, I won't play it.
Jess, I swear, there's something really messed up going
I feel
on.
like you can pet the dog at least.
Calm down. What did you see?
It's hard to explain. Memories? Bad memories. What the hell? Jess, you there? I think I'm starting to lose it.
Oh, spooky voices in your head.
Jess? Jess!
The sound design on this trailer is awesome. Listening to this in my headphones. So I don't know how I feel about this game yet. I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts. I'm interested to see what you guys think because when they first showed this trailer at E3, I was like, man, is this the next Outlast game? Because, you know, it had that mechanic of you're looking through your camera and you're walking around, and then when it slowly became more and more apparent that, oh shit, this is a Blair Witch game, I think people were excited because the Blair Witch is such a pivotal franchise in just horror history. And it means a lot to the horror genre in general. And I think that this style of game can do it a lot of justice. But I just wonder if it may be a couple years too late because Outlast did it so well. Especially with the first one. And I know other people enjoyed the second one. But Outlast is such a good franchise. And I don't know, this seems so closely linked to that style. And so I just wonder in my mind if this is too late. But I think that behind the name Blair Witch, it's going to generate a lot of buzz. It's going to generate a lot of sales. August 30th is a weird release date to me. Think I would have rather seen it come out in October, closer to Halloween. I think that would have been really, really cool. But no, that trailer looks interesting enough. I'm not a huge Blair Witch fan. I recognize that Blair Witch is an important part of horror history and that kind of like canon of horror, but it's not particularly my cup of tea. But the trailer looks cool. It looks spooky. Looks like a game I probably won't play. I love horror movies. Big fan of horror movies. And but I, for some reason, have such a hard time playing spooky games. I don't know what it is. I get myself freaked out because when I play it, I'm like, all right, I'm going all in on this experience. Lights down, headset cranked up. I'm in this game. I'm going to play it. And I get so in my head about it for some reason. Like I can watch a movie and separate myself from it and be like, oh, it's just a movie. Nothing's going to happen. I remember one time I was watching, it was me, Larry, a guy who used to do the Player 3 podcast with us named Diz. And I think Ben was with us as well. We were watching Insidious in my basement. And he said something. He said, whenever I watch a horror movie, I always just remind myself, like, nothing freaky happened to me yesterday or the day before that or the day before that. Why is it going to change just because I watched a horror movie today? And that really stuck with me. And that mentality has carried me through many a horror film that I've watched. But for some reason, it does not work in disconnecting myself from spooky games. The sense is, I think a lot of scary games now just come down to jump scares. Outlast did do a great job as far as making you feel immersed in the situation, though. But a lot of games lack that, I feel like. That's a big thing in all of horror, I think, too, Descent. I completely agree with you. The best horror to me is horror of atmosphere. That's why I think Insidious was so good in the first movie up until like the last 10 minutes, right? Where most scary movies spiral out of control. But they create this tension. They create a great environment for you to kind of unravel a mystery within. And it's the tension of the mystery that brings the fear. That's why PT was so good. Because it not only had the mystery of the game itself, but it had the mystery of the release behind it. And, you know, it released during a Gamescom. It was immediately available for download. Nobody really knew what it was. Everybody was racing to finish it, to figure out what it was. And so there was this, like, sense of mystery around the release itself that added to it. The sense as, like, Layers of Fear was great. It wasn't just some uncomfortable experience. The story was good. The scares weren't just jump scares. But Layers of Fear 2 kind of fell off that and went down to jump scares and just being uncomfortable. And I think that's really any horror franchise that we've seen go into multiple releases. And I'm not talking about just games. Like I mentioned Insidious already. Insidious 1, probably one of the scariest movies to ever release, in my opinion. Some of the best atmospheric horror. Had some good jump scares in it, but the jump scares were made possible by the tension that it created throughout the entire movie. But then you get into the sequels of Insidious, and it had to rely more and more on kind of cheap tricks. And so I totally agree with you, Descent. And so if this game can do a really good job of creating a tension in the atmosphere and really playing on that idea of exploration and uncovering the mystery and not just rely on cheap jump scares, I think it can be really successful. But trailer looks cool, and I'll at least watch people playing it. I'm not bold enough to think that I'll spend money on it and actually play it. All right, guys, moving on. Because let's see, time check. We got 20 minutes. 20 minutes, and then we're going to switch over to play something with Larry. And yeah, we're playing Apex. Sorry, I had to check. Next item on the list. Call of Duty, and I just realized I don't have night mode turned on. There we go. Call of Duty has this really weird new feature. This is from Nathan Grayson over at Kotaku. It says, today, in tiny hyper-specific details that might end up having grave ludonarrative consequences, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019's multiplayer avatars can wear watches. These watches display whatever time it is where you are, opening the door to a grim future in which somebody can land a perfect headshot on you, and as your character's visions fade to black, say, wow, and you're in the Pacific time zone. Weak, man. Here's the actual story. Players noticed the watches in a new teaser trailer that dropped last week ahead of the game's upcoming August 1st multiplayer reveal. Over the weekend, one eagle-eyed player on Reddit noted that the time on the watch didn't match the likely in-game time, prompting a response from art director Joel Emsley. Quote, the watches read the time off of your console or PC. They are real time, not game time, end quote, he said. It's a cool little detail, but one that immediately set off a cascading avalanche of unfounded fears that Infinity Ward prioritized watches that tell the actual time over other elements of the game. Emsley proceeded to put those fears to rest, saying that 2002 World War II shooter Medal of Honor Allied Assault had a similar feature. Quote, fun fact, Medal of Honor Allied Assault, developed by 2015 pre-Infinity War, had a clock shader that did the same thing in 2002, a feature from 17 years ago. An Infinity Ward artist named Jeff Heath used to complain all the time in the art pit that we didn't have it when developing COD, and hey, now we do. Turns out it wasn't that hard to pull off. It adds some complexity to the game, and it didn't hurt development. Win-win, my friends, end quote. That's what he wrote in his post. I think the story is really funny. You can see the picture of the watch here in the Kotaku article, wearing it on the inside of the wrist. My dad was a cop, and I don't know if it has something to do with like people who have to carry guns having their watch like that. But my dad always wears his watch with the face on the inside. And I don't get it. Maybe somebody in the comments or in the chat can explain to me why that's the thing. But here you have your Call of Duty character wearing his watch in a similar way. I always love this. I always love the fallout from these kinds of stories because, in my opinion, like, okay, I'm neither here nor there about this kind of stuff. I think it makes a cool article, but I'm never going to notice it in the game. I'm never going to be eagle-eyed enough to pay attention to the details and catch that it's the same exact time. But I always love when these stories come out and people are like, oh man, I can't believe those developers wasted their time on this game when they could be working on, this feature. And I'm like, do you not understand how massive a team at Infinity Ward, the team that's making Call of Duty Modern Warfare, is huge. And I don't think that they like slammed on the brakes and said, all right, guys, we need to have a meeting. Everybody, all thousands of employees in the boardroom, we're going to stop what you're doing, pencils down, into the boardroom you go. We have a proposal for a feature, and we're going to need everybody's feedback on it. And we're going to need to pull 500 people onto this team to make sure it gets executed. And then we're going to need to, then we're going to need to QA it with another 500 of you. Like, thinking that it pulls all of these development resources off of the actual project to say, we need to put actual watch faces, the actual time in the game. That's not how it works. And I love that that's always the argument that people come to when they see these stories, is like, they could have been working on something else. Descent says it might just be, talking about the watch on the inside, he says, might just be to see the time consistently instead of having to turn your wrist while handling a firearm. Not 100% sure though. And if I'm not mistaken, a lot of watches that like you'd wear in the military like have a compass feature and stuff on them as well. So maybe there's a little bit of being able to see that. Again, I have no idea. Is it something worth looking up? Possibly. Let's see. Why wear watch upside down? Mad Brock says, yeah, it was probably a 3-person team doing it. All right, here we go. This is from specialops.org. Why do special forces operators wear their wristwatches faces inwards? This is from Eric Soff over at special-ops.org. We received some interesting questions about military fashion, especially popular inside special forces. Many operators wearing their watches face inward in this article. I'll try to explain to you why. First of all, it's more convenient to check time, to Descent's point. While aiming to check time, especially while aiming your primary weapon. But there's one reason that precedes this ability to check the time without moving your wrist. Namely, the screen of your watch makes a reflection of any source of light pointing to it. Besides, it doesn't have to be an evident light. Its screen can reflect anything, which of course is a violation of light discipline. Very interesting, guys. This is why everybody tunes in. People tune into the PvA Nightly Rundown, right? The first reason is the malevolent spirit of Larry Johnson, which gives us competitive power and edge over our opponents. But also, because you learn something when you come here, guys. I'm going to teach you something. You're going to come here and you're going to be like, Luke, I'm a freaking idiot. I need to be learned in something. And I'm going to say, pull up a chair, young grasshopper. I'm going to teach you. Mad Brock says, boom, shakalaka. That's Graffiti says, you're the best. No, you guys are the best. Everybody who watches this show on a nightly basis comes in here and interacts with me. You guys are the best. Everybody who watches over on youtube.com/PVA radio, you guys are the best. Everybody who listens to our show on podcast services everywhere, you guys are the best. I'm just a vessel, right? I just pour all this gaming news into this large noggin of mine and then spout it out of my mouth and teach you guys things. And then when I've got a question that I know everybody else has, I look it up on the internet, and Eric Soft tells us, no, you wear it on the inside of your wrist because of light discipline. You don't want people catching that reflection off of your wrist. Guys, I played that mission in the Medal of Honor reboot on the Xbox 360, right? Where you're looking across that mountain range and you got to pick up the flash of the scopes against the opponent so that you can take them out from a distance. Played that mission. I know all about light discipline. Should have put 2 and 2 together. I've got a Navy SEAL mind. Navy SEAL mind. But yeah, if your first reaction when you see a story like that is to say, they could have used those resources to just really overhaul the matchmaking. I'm like, I want you to take those 3 people that had to work on this feature and say, we're going to build an entire game from the ground up and see how far you get with just those 3 individuals. Spoiler alert, not going to be very far. Not going to be very far. Next item on the list. Hitman 3 is currently in development and may be going towards an episodic model again. And I will tell a funny story here while we're here. This is from That Scafidi says, but resources. You're right. You're right, That Scafidi, but resources. What could have been done with those resources, guys? They could have added some extra sweat texture to the soldiers. Instead, they decided to go with a watch face. This story's from Matt Kim. I'm not going to read this whole entire thing to you, but he draws some conclusions from a quote from a no-clip documentary with IO Interactive, which is the team behind Hitman. For those of you uninitiated, IO Interactive bought themselves out, and they're currently independent. They're not with Square Enix anymore. The studio was going to be sold, and rather than be sold, they came in and said, what if we bought ourselves out? So they are now independent, and they are working on Hitman 3, and we get that from this quote from CEO Hakim Abrak. It says, quote, Hitman is a trilogy. There's a bright future. There's this full realization of the whole world of assassination that we're looking towards as well. The world of assassination, when that's complete, it's going to be one game with all the locations starting from Paris in Hitman to the last location in Hitman 3, end quote. And so the article continues, and there's some speculation going on that they're going to return to an episodic model for this. So for those of you uninitiated, when they first announced Hitman, it was going to be a full release, and they took pre-orders for it to be a full release. It was going to just be a $60, hey, here's the whole game in one big chunk. Here you go. Then the game got closer and closer to release, and all of a sudden, the pre-orders for the game started to get canceled, and Sony started to send out these messages like, due to a change in I don't remember exactly how it was worded, but it was essentially like, hey, due to a change in the way that the game is structured, we're refunding all pre-orders. It's being returned to your PlayStation wallets, yada yada yada. And that change ended up being that they were releasing the game episodically rather than as one big game. For the second game, however, they returned to a singular release, and it didn't quite have the same success. The first Hitman in this trilogy that was episodic had a really great reception among fans. And the second one, while good, failed to capture the same kind of commercial success that I think the first one was able to accomplish. And so I think that's some motivation behind the episodic release again. I think that they're hoping to catch lightning in a bottle again. I'm not sure if it was necessarily the episodic model, though, that really helped that game succeed. I'm trying to think of other kind of episodic games we've seen in the last couple years that have been really successful. Because we've started to see more and more places migrating away from that. And I don't know how you guys feel about episodic, but for me, I don't have the attention span for an episodic release. Like I'd love to get into Life is Strange as it's coming out and be a part of the conversation that goes on around that game as those episodes are coming out. But I just can't. I've tried a couple other episodic games. I tried getting into the old Walking Dead games from Telltale. I tried getting into the Game of Thrones game from Telltale, which I understand that one is considered to be not that good as far as the Telltale games are concerned. But for me, it's just, I can't play a 90-minute, 2-hour episode and then be like, all right, guys, I think I'm good for 2 months while I wait for the next one, or 3 months while I wait for the next one. I just can't do that. And then by the time it gets to where all of the episodes are out and I could just marathon through them, the conversation's passed. Everybody talks about those games as they're releasing, and I like to be a part of that conversation as it's going on. And I don't think that I'm in the minority here. That's Graffiti says, I mean, it worked for Telltale. JK, they're gone now. And it's true. And Telltale had a lot of other issues, right? They leaned on an engine that was old as hell, and that they had kind of taken to the edge and well beyond the edge, and just never quite was able to get a handle on in a way that made it work across everything that they were releasing it on. I think that there was probably a lot of bloat and overhead due to the fact that they had to license the franchises they were making games for. So I think there was a lot of things. I don't think it was just the episodic model, but I don't think the episodic model helped them at all either. But I told you I'd tell you guys a funny story. So when I worked at Twinfinite, I was on the I mainly wrote opinion pieces and features when I was at Twinfinite, but occasionally I'd have to reach some, sort of writing quota, and I'd end up writing some news. But the only news I would ever take was if the news was actually breaking. If I was pulling it from a source that wasn't GameSpot or IGN or Polygon or Kotaku, I didn't want to pull a story down from there and just rewrite it for Twinfinite. I always wanted to write something that was like really fresh, or it was news that wasn't being covered by somebody. One of my most popular stories at Twinfinite was GameStop did a deal one year at Christmas where you could buy a used PS4. It was a buy two get one deal, and it essentially worked out where you could get the PS4, Xbox One, and a Wii U for like less than $500 or something. And nobody was publishing the story. I published it, shared it out on Facebook, tons of views. Got a ton of views on that story. Made a lot of money, quote unquote, a lot of money. When you're getting paid per views, I made a lot of money on that one. So I was always like watching Twitter or watching, I can't remember the name of the forum at the time that I was watching, but essentially the reset era of back then. I'll remember it eventually. And I'd watch these places for these stories. Well, I started to notice on Twitter that people were getting these weird emails from Sony saying that their Hitman stuff was canceled. And for your news articles, it was really dependent. Your success was really dependent on being the first to N4G. So if you were breaking a story and you could be the first on N4G with a juicy story, your views would skyrocket. And so I'm starting to notice the stuff on Twitter. Nobody really knows what's going on because the email was just very, very vague about why these pre-orders were getting canceled. And so I did what a good reporter would do. I don't have a journalism background, but I knew what I was supposed to do. I started typing up the story, Hitman pre-orders on PS4 getting canceled, customers unsure why, and I emailed the PR for Square. I was like, hey, can you give me any insight on this? They sent me back some like boilerplate response about we have some announcements moving forward, blah, blah, blah. And then about 15 minutes later, they released that email they were sending out to people who were reaching out as just like a press release. But we needed to get it out pretty quickly. And so, but with any kind of like breaking story like that, I wasn't allowed to just publish it without running it by an editor first because they wanted to make sure there wasn't any speculation, anything like that. And so we finally get it out. I get on to N4G. Nobody else has published the story yet. I'm like, yes, fucking gold mine. I'm going to get all the views. Publish it. I get a report. I get a rejected, like failed notification a couple minutes later. And it was a mod saying, why are you saying that nobody knows why it's happening when we know what's happening? And why did you claim that a PR person sent the quote to you when it's just the release? And I was like, well, I can send you a screenshot of the email that they sent me that I sent to them minutes before. And they were like, they ended up giving the news story, because the way N4G works is it's like an aggregator and they don't want a bunch of people publishing the same story. So they ended up giving it to another site and I did not make a dime off of that story. And I was like sprinting to the finish line to get it. I was pissed. So that's why that story like just sticks in my mind, because it was like for just a few minutes there, it really was like hey, why nobody knows why they're doing this. There's speculation as to why, but nobody was really sure why they were canceling them. That's Graffiti says, of course, due to the nature of Hitman, it can work better at least for people who play it in a completionist fashion. There's a lot to do in each episode, and by the time you get it done, the next episode comes out, assuming it's not the only game you play. And that's a really great point, that's Graffiti. That's the difference between like a Telltale game and with Hitman. Hitman is designed with replayability in mind, and I guess you could say like Telltale games and those more story-driven episodic games are as well. But for a guy like me, on those story-based games, I have my playthrough. It is my playthrough. My favorite game of this past generation, one of my favorite games of this past generation, is Firewatch. And Firewatch has multiple endings, multiple dialogue options. There's a lot of choices you can make throughout the game to craft it the way that you want it crafted. I've played the game once. I've written several pieces on the story. I talk about that story all the time, that game all the time when I talk about favorite games of this generation. I played through it once because that's my playthrough. And Telltale games are the same way. Like, I don't want to keep going back and replaying it 5 different times to see all the different choices you can make and all the different ways that it falls out. Whereas Hitman is designed to be like, how many different ways can you figure out how to kill this guy? Can you do it in this area? Can you do it in this area? Can you do it with this weapon? Can you hide in this place? Can you kill him with this costume on? Like, there's a lot of different ways to play it, and I think that they even have like a trophy system around it, right? Of being able to do certain things in certain ways. So yeah, I think that's a really great point, that's Graffiti. Like, Hitman has things that call you back to it that aren't necessarily that isn't just a story. There's a way that it can carry you through between the releases. Can you kill them with a coconut? Which is a question I ask myself every single day. All right, guys. What's the time? Time check here. Oh, it is 10 o'clock. I've got a couple other news stories here. Nothing really big. There are raids that are going to be coming to Fallout 76 next month, and in a really weird incident where the developers weren't quite sure if it was coming out that day, but there was a splash screen behind them that said they were coming out. I think it was August 20th, and then you can unofficially install Android on your Nintendo Switch device by just putting it on an SD card. And that story is over on Kotaku. You can upload it to an SD card. You don't even have to install it to your system. It can run it directly off the SD card, but you'll be able to use like Netflix, all those kinds of things. So there's the last couple stories that we had in the bank, but we're going to end it because we're going to go play some Apex Allergens over with Aluri and maybe Seth. I think Seth may have said he was getting on. He said he'll be on very shortly, 2 minutes ago. So I'm going to go get some more agua and end it for our YouTube audience. If you're hanging out over here on Twitch, make sure you stick around. We'll probably be turning song requests on and playing some Apex Legends. So stick around for that. If you're watching us over on YouTube, we greatly appreciate it. This has been the PvA Nightly Rundown. We do this every single weeknight except for Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Time over here on twitch.tv/PVA Radio. And then we push it out on youtube.com/PVA Radio, both as a whole entire episode and also topic by topic the very next morning. So wherever you're watching us, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, comment. All greatly, greatly appreciated. And until tomorrow night, guys, when Cody Mellocline will be joining us for the first guest ever on the PvA Nightly Rundown. We love you. Goodbye.